So in order to generate bodhicitta, we need to have great love and great compassion. And to generate those, we need to understand the dukkha of sentient beings, and we also need to see them in a heartwarming or endearing way. In other words, to see them as beauty, to see them as lovable. And when you think that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas see sentient beings like that, see them as the most precious, amazingly, incredibly precious, then, and we look at how happy the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are. But when we look at the situation, we say, well, how can they see them, as being so precious and so lovable? Because this person does this and that person does that. We judge, we complain, we pick faults. There's always something wrong. They're too bossy. They're not assertive enough. Something's always wrong with sentient beings. So it's as if we are telling the Buddhas, Buddha, you got it all wrong. These sentient beings are not precious. They're really quite troublesome. And in that way, justify our negative feelings towards them. But that seems rather strange, doesn't it? Telling the Buddha that his understanding is all wrong, that he should see sentient beings as we do, as being so abominable. When we look, though, the Buddha sees sentient beings in beauty, and the Buddha is joyful. We pick faults and judge and criticize, and we're miserable. So, do we want to be joyful or do we want to be miserable? Because there's two different views to have on sentient beings. We can cultivate one, we can cultivate the other. It's our choice. But to be aware that if we cultivate the one that's critical and judgmental, we're going to be very unhappy. And it's also going to be as if we're telling the Buddha that he doesn't know what he's doing in cherishing sentient beings because they really aren't very precious. So think about it a little and, how do you want your mind to be? What aims do you have for yourself as a human being? Do you want to be happy or do you seek misery? So look at it closely, and from that investigation, then choose which way you want to, in what perspective you want to see sentient beings, and then cultivate that perspective. And if we cultivate the perspective that they're kind and precious, we will eventually attain full awakening. If we cultivate the perspective that they're a bunch of jerks, then we'll find our way to the lower realms. So it's really up to us. So try and cultivate a good attitude towards sentient beings, cultivate the bodhichitta, and make that our motivation for sharing the Dharma this evening. It's true, isn't it? Sentient beings are just there. They're neutral objects. Yeah. As objects of perception, they're neutral. They're not virtuous. They're not non-virtuous. And we can choose how to look at them. And how we look at them affects how we feel on a day-to-day basis. And it affects the karma we create. It affects our future. But just even looking, at how it affects us today, we can get really into our critical, judgmental mind. And these people are driving me crazy. Why do they do this? Why don't they do that? And they're so miserable. Look how they treat me, and look how they treat others. On and on we can, we're very good at picking faults, aren't we? Yeah. So we can pick faults, we can criticize, we can complain, we can blame, we can belittle, and just trash everybody. And how does that affect us when we have that very defensive mind stream, very defensive attitude towards others? Just think about it, because we all have that critical, judgmental mind, don't we? And where do you go when you let that mind just operate indiscriminately? Do you feel happy? Do you feel joyful? Are you enthusiastic about life? Or no, you're totally, in a bad mood, grumpy, grouchy, unpleasant to be with, dissatisfied. And we can say, but I'm right, they really are like that. Well, congratulations. Yeah? If you want to see sentient beings that way, it's your choice. But if you're miserable, please, realize that's your own responsibility. What did they say? If you made your bed, so you have to lie in it, Huh? Yeah. But I made it into, if you dig a ditch, you jump in it. Lying in a bed is much, But it's really true. It's totally up to us how we view sentient beings. It's not up to sentient beings. Yeah. They're not virtuous or non-virtuous. Yeah. But sometimes we just hear somebody's name and our mind gets angry. We hear somebody's name and, non-virtue comes up like that. Yeah. So it's not coming from them, it's coming from us. And that's the hardest thing to really accept, because it means that we have to change. On the other hand, it's the most wonderful thing, because if it wasn't due to our perception, and to change we had to change sentient beings or appease God or something else, then we would really be lost. So the fact that it's our responsibility is good, because that means we can do something to change our own situation. Yeah, if it wasn't our responsibility, then, then we're really stuck. But it's up to us. We should do a song by the Extremes called It's Up to Us. Or it's up to you. You. It's up to you. Point the finger. It's up to you. Okay. There's something so nice about complaining about other people. Yeah, it makes you so smug. Doesn't it make you smug and kind of arrogant? Yeah, oh, those people are just such idiots. Yeah, why can't they get it together? Why aren't they like me? That's the implication, isn't it? Why aren't they like me? Because I'm so good. I'm so intelligent. I'm so talented. I know the way things should be done. Yeah. So arrogant, isn't it? So why didn't they make this so that when I touch the Kindle thing, it comes up right away? Those people who make computers. How kind they are, because without a computer, I couldn't do anything nowadays. Challenges and defenders in our course and beyond, right? Okay. So it usually seems to those first learning about Buddhist reasoning and debate that the hard parts are learning the reasoning procedures and learning the material. This makes a lot of sense. However, one essential factor that slips in almost unnoticed is that the participants must adopt the roles of challengers and defenders and stick to them. This is not so remarkable in a way. However, this single bit of discipline is one thing that, one, makes the whole process possible, and two, very much sets off this practice of debate from ordinary discourse and even ordinary debate. And so why it seems hard to learn the procedures and the material, sometimes what's harder is for us to stick to the form, because we have in our lives, we're not used to sticking to a form when we, have a discussion. We go all over the place. Okay. What usually happens in ordinary disputes, as you may observe at every level, from your own personal life to the opinion television shows, is that the roles continually slip back and forth. In Buddhist reasoning and debate, the challenger asks the questions of the defender, asks for information from the defender, and poses argument responses to the defender's statements. The defender gives answers, supplies information, and justifies the information and answers with reasons. Okay. In ordinary disputes, one person will challenge another with an argument, get an answer from the other, and then come back again with a counter. Okay. What usually happens at that point is that the one who was first questioned will then challenge back with an analogy, a criticism, or a counter-argument against the first person. Thus, in just a few moves, the challenger has been pressed into the role of defender because the defender assumed the role of the challenger. Okay? So let's make an example of that. Shall we use our you didn't buy the peanut butter example? Okay, so let's say I'm having an argument with, I don't know, who wants to, you want to be, okay. Okay, so why didn't, there's no peanut butter.
So?
What do you mean, so? Who do you think you are to say so to me?
I mean, so. There's no peanut butter. You'll live. We'll get some tomorrow.
Oh, you're out of your mind. Okay? So, so do you see what happened? I said something, and instantly what she did was attack back. So she didn't answer my question or deal with what I said. Yeah, but she changed the topic and challenged me back, so that then I became the defender. Yeah, because she was saying so to me, like you don't matter. So then I have to defend myself. So then she's no longer the defender. I'm the defender. So I don't like being in that position. So then I attack her back. Okay, do you see how that works? And this is so common in our ordinary disputes, isn't it? That's how we do it. Yeah. Even if I had started it with, why didn't you get the peanut butter? Okay, I'm asking you a question.
Why didn't know we were out.
Don't you have eyes?
I don't eat the peanut butter. You didn't tell me we were out.
It's not my responsibility to tell you. You're in charge with ordering things.
Of course I'm in charge of ordering things, but if I don't eat it, I don't notice it.
Okay. So do you see again, how we, I asked her a question, she attacked back, and then I kept attacking her, and she kept defending herself, but I was kind of waiting for her to attack back. Yeah. So this is, and you see that this is why, well, one of the reasons why these kind of discussions don't go anywhere is because people they're too emotional, yeah, and they don't really care about the peanut butter. What they're really trying to say is, I'm hurting, and won't you be nice to me, please? Okay, isn't that what's happening? When I say, why didn't you get any peanut butter? I mean, that's what I'm really trying to say. I'm missing my peanut butter, and can you care about my suffering from the lack of peanut butter? Okay, but that's what's really going on. But then our egos get involved, and we have this kind of dispute, and it doesn't go anywhere. And the resolution of it isn't that somebody goes and buys the peanut butter. The resolution is that I get more mad at her and she gets more mad at me until we don't talk to each other. Yeah. Isn't it? When you have a fight with somebody, you just yell and scream. And how does it usually work out? Either one person stomps away, or one person starts crying, or one person hits somebody. How often does it get resolved? Not very often. And so we create a lot of karma, and it makes life exciting. And if you're doing a TV program, it'll, you get more viewers if you have kind of your characters having a big argument. Yeah, because if the characters in a movie just get along and they're polite, nice to each other, do you keep watching it? No, it's so boring. Yeah? People being nice to each other, how boring. Let's have them, argue and fight. Ridiculous. Okay, so we go back and forth between being challenger and defender. There's no discipline here, and so it is hard to reach a conclusion. This happens among Tibetan debaters too, of course. Sometimes a defender will fling back a consequence to the challenger, or both of them will lapse into conversation. One time, Lati Rinpoche sort of poked fun of me, saying I was truly like a Mongolian geshe. He was pointing out that if someone stated something to me in debate format, I would give a response. But if they said it to me in ordinary colloquial Tibetan, I wouldn't get it. Okay. He went on to say that this was sometimes an advantage for the Mongolians studying in Tibet, because the Tibetans would more frequently lapse into conversation, but the Mongolians had to stay on task because the debate terminology was in Tibetan, and they could not easily discuss it in Mongolian, and they didn't know Tibetan colloquial language so well. Okay, so they had to stay on track with the format. Even though there is some role slippage and lapsing into conversation, the Tibetan debaters always know what they are supposed to be doing, and they maintain a high level of discipline. And that's why the system works, and that's why you can often go deep into examining a topic, whereas what we do is often, you ask a question, somebody gives an answer, and then you ask another question, and you take the subject off here and there and the other place, and not really getting to the bottom of the issue. Every organized system of dispute requires some sort of discipline and constraint, or it can never proceed. In our culture, we observe debate and dispute in two main settings. They forgot to include Twitter here. But now Twitter is. Yeah, everything happens over Twitter. The classic debate forum is Oxford-style debate. In that style, two opposing teams of 3 or so speak one by one with the constraints of time limits and reserve quiet on the part of everybody else. There is also the discipline of the way the topic is set forth. Usually there is an issue posed in the form, resolved such and so, and the terms on one side are pro, that is, in support of, and on the other side are con, that is, opposed to the resolution. Okay. So it's really, very black and white, yes and no kind of format. Okay. After listening to the statements by team members on both sides, usually in a round or two, the audience votes, and that determines the winners. Classically, at the Oxford Union, there are 2 doors leading out of the hall, one pro and one con, and the audience members vote by going out of one door or the other. So you don't know until you've won and until after the audience has left, so nobody applauds you. Okay, so, that's so different than this kind of debate, isn't it? Yeah. Where the audience decides, not the people themselves, and where it's just limited to pro and con, and, one side speaks, the other side speaks, and there's, not so much going back and forth. Yeah. Did you do that in high school? Anybody? Yeah, I did it. Our one, I remember it very vividly. It was about communist China, and is the communist system, socialist system, good? Yeah, and I said yes. Yeah, because in those years we didn't know what was really going on inside China. Huh? I can't remember. But I remember that was the topic. The other main setting in which we see argument and dispute in our society is the legal setting, mainly in the courtroom rather than the legislature. In the legislature, what passes for debate can be speechifying or pontificating, or what do they call it? What's the word? That filibuster. Yeah, where you get up there and you just speak and speak, and then you can't take a vote or anything. Yeah, you filibuster it. I've never heard speechifying. Yeah. Okay, in which the members speak their pieces to support their views. You do not see members questioning each other and responding back and forth in the American legislature. That's because they don't talk to each other. They talk at each other. They pontificate. Yeah. Though there seems to be more of this in the British House of Parliament. Legislature style is more like Oxford style debate, except that the members cast the final vote. So legislature, the members vote. Oxford, other people vote. Okay. In the courtyard, in the courts, then the judge or the jury determine it. You know, the lawyers who are doing the arguing don't determine. Okay, so it's quite different, you know. I mean, in the debate setting, it's the people who are doing the debate themselves that come to see either that the argument is correct or incorrect. Yeah. Many of my acquaintances working within the American legal system complain that the television courtroom dramas are not at all like the actual practice of law. Even so, we know these things about the system. It is an advocacy system with two opposing sides. Both sides put forth arguments. There is sometimes a jury of peers who weigh the arguments with an eye to the relevant law, and there is always a judge. When the jury reaches a verdict in a case, in a sense, they are like the audience members in the Oxford Union. If a judge renders a verdict in a case, then the judge is like the audience member, with the only vote that counts. At no time in the American courtroom is either the lawyer advocate allowed to question the other advocate. That's true. You only question the witnesses. The two lawyers don't question each other. Yeah. Yeah, quite different kind of structure. By the way, speaking of courtrooms, the Mueller investigation had said that Paul Manafort had lied to them even after he had made the deal to cooperate, and the judge, who happens to be a woman, said that there were 5 areas where the investigation said he lied, and the judge agreed with 3 of them that he lied, and one of them was about his contact with one Russian guy. So people are wondering why he lied. Yeah, was he lying so that he could maybe get a pardon or from Trump, or was he lying because there's something so big and yucky underneath it that, because there's so many people who the investigation have caught for lying. So why are they all lying? Anyway, so I just thought I would throw that in. As long as we're talking about the courts. And and also to illustrate a different point, which is in the debate system, you don't lie. Yeah, the challenger can say anything they want. It may be really far out, yeah, but it's not considered lying. They may try and trick the defender, okay, but the reason to try and trick them and get the defender to accept something that isn't correct is, to sharpen that person's intelligence so they can really see how things are. Yeah. So it's a very different kind of system. Yeah, nobody's trying to lie to each other and cover up stuff. Of course, if in the debate courtyard, you're not going to go to prison for it either. So human beings are so interesting. You know, why would somebody do that? You've been caught already. You're 69 years old. You want a short sentence because your life isn't going to be that long. Do you want to spend the rest of your life in prison? So why do you lie if telling the truth would hopefully get you a shorter sentence? No, because he's already been convicted. If he hadn't been convicted, but this is after he's been convicted, when he's supposed to cooperate. He made a deal with the prosecutors to cooperate, and then he lies at that time. Yeah. So human beings, you know, I mean, we got to lead people like this to awakening. So somehow we have to understand how they think and why they think the way they think. You know, how you know, if you're a bodhisattva, you know, like let's say he had the karma to have a bodhisattva manifest now to help him. What would that bodhisattva do? What would that bodhisattva say that could get through to him? You know, you'd really have to understand his way of thinking. Anyway, something to think about, huh? Yeah, I mean, you just think of some of the people who, yeah, how would you get through to them if you had, you know, 2 hours with them, you know, just to like say something that might help them? What could you say that might help somebody like that, even in terms of planting seeds? Yeah. Beyond these two settings, sometimes there are genuine discussions with people reasoning together in academic settings. In these settings, there can be real give and take between discussants. It's a funny word, discussants. Don't know. However, these are not typical experiences for the public, as are Oxford-style debates and the courtroom trials. George Dreyfus, with his unique perspective as the first Westerner to earn a Geshe degree, and who then went on to earn a PhD and work as a professor, said of the contrast between debate in the monastery and life in Western academy, "One of my biggest disappointments is that in a Western academic environment, I did not find the same possibility of debate that I used to have in the monastery. I found that the monastery has, in a way, a much freer atmosphere than a Western university, because there are fewer constraints which limit the intellectual exchange. That was a big surprise for me." Yeah. And you would think, you know, with the structure in the monasteries and how, you know, you're learning from your own yigcha and you have to defend that, you know, there's things are confined there. But in the Western academia, very confined. But I think confined in a different way, because they're also concerned with their reputation. Yeah, and nobody wants to look bad. Yeah. So I think that kind of thing puts up a lot of roadblocks in having genuine discussion.
Don't you think, too, it's because whatever debate there might be has such a totally different purpose? If the intent is to sharpen our mind in order to be able to ascertain reality and liberate each other, that's a really different goal from any kind of academic debate, I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Because academics, they want to win the debate. Yeah. And they want their book to be known as the one with the brilliant argument. His comments clearly imply that spiritual practice does not require foregoing intellectual activity. Definitely not. Also, since debate in Western academia, whether in the sciences or the humanities, usually takes place in written exchanges, even in our space age of communication, those exchanges are slow by comparison to the quick cadence of Buddhist debate. Yeah, it was very interesting for me. Years ago when Betsy's book, Emptiness and Dependent Arising, or Dependent Arising and Emptiness, the whole first section, she's refuting the arguments of other Western academic people. Yeah. And it took me a while to realize, she's writing the book for these Western academic people. So that's what you do in academia. You have to refute different people's arguments. You can't, in a book for a practitioner, you would present the material, the first section in a very, very different way. Yeah. Thus, one thing that sets a Buddhist debate apart is the quick back and forth response of argument and answer, and they are quick. Yeah. Another thing that separates it out is that the participants do a good job of maintaining the discipline of staying in the roles of challenger and defender for the duration of the debate. Another distinctive feature of Buddhist debate is that only the defender can lose the debate. The challenger cannot lose. I'll be the challenger. The challenger might do a poor job by giving answers that are not a fair reply to the defender's answer, or by posing weak arguments. But there are plenty of other debaters standing around ready to push that person aside and do a better job. And that's what they do, literally. When they're debating, somebody else will come and they will shove somebody really hard, sometimes, and then jump in themselves. Also, in Buddhist debate, the defender loses by contradicting his or her earlier claims, either losing out on the present line of reasoning or losing the whole debate. In Oxford-style debate and in the courtroom, it is up to the audience to notice whether or not the advocates are contradicting themselves. The lawyers listen carefully for the witnesses to contradict themselves, and it seems that that brings their whole testimony into question, though it is not necessarily dispositive. That means helping to settle the case. Also, the legislators seem to listen very carefully for contradictory statements, but there too, that alone would not mean that the member would lose the argument in the final vote. And the final vote, it doesn't matter what you argue in the legislature, almost, people. What are their criteria for what they vote? Is it the debate in the legislature, or is it what their party's telling them to vote, or their fear of not getting reelected, and so the kind of letters they're receiving from their constituents? What is it that determines how somebody in the legislature votes? Yeah, interesting. What? But what I was thinking? That the way, like you can see right now, they're having, they have to decide by midnight tomorrow on a spending bill. Otherwise, there's going to be another government shutdown. Yippee! But nobody wants that. So they've been spending these 3 weeks talking back and forth and trying to do it. And they almost had something, and then it fell apart. And now they're working again. But is Trump going to sign it? And what I realized is that it's very much like the process we do in the Sangha, okay? In the sense that in the Sangha, if we have an issue, we do all sorts of talking amongst ourselves and in a group, and we bring up all the points and we discuss it. And then the Sangha Karman is the formality of making public the agreement that we've all come to through the discussion. And so I realized that is what's happening in the Congress too. They're doing all this discussion back and forth and everything they're going to get it all figured out, and then they have the vote when they're sure it's going to pass. So it's like doing the Sangha Karman when you know that nobody's going to stand up and object. So it's interesting. It's a similar kind of thing. Yeah. I used to think, before I really learned much about Sangha Karmans, I thought that it was the Sangha Karman in which you did all the discussion. But it's not. You do all the discussion informally outside, and then you have it. And that is the public certification of the decision of the Sangha. Like passing a legislative bill. Except we don't have a president that needs to sign it. Thank goodness. Okay. And so you can see the picture down there. This is, during an exam time. This is quite a small hall, actually. Usually when, they're huge halls and thousands of monks. And you have to do your recitation, walking up and down, and everybody's listening. And then the senior lamas, they're the ones sitting in the chairs. And, it must be quite something for them, because they did the same thing, 50, 60 years ago. And then they're sitting there now supervising the exams. Okay. So the description for that photo is, the monks or nuns sit together in rows and pray to Manjushri, the special deity of debate. This prayer ends with everybody clapping while saying, cheer, 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 which means literally because. They say, Yinbichir, isn't it? Because of that. Or perhaps because of what? Lati Rinpoche explained this as seeking an answer to the question, why is the world as it is? Or what is the reason that the world is as it is? The young monk walking down the aisle is about to take an examination. Okay. So how will your Buddhist practice, how would your practice of Buddhist debate play out in your life? You cannot limit dispute to just those individuals who have some experience with this style of discourse. Thus, you will often have to proceed in a stealth mode. Follow the discipline to the extent you can, and let your opponents cast about as they will. In the moment, you will not be able to stop them or train them or insist that they follow some protocol. You may be able to say things like, well, wait, I will answer your question, but first give an answer to mine. If they claim that a counter-argument is their answer. And if they claim that a counter-argument is their answer, then say, no, I'm sorry, that's a counter-argument, not an answer. You will develop your own techniques. Please note that I am saying things here such as please and I'm sorry. There are several reasons to be polite. As Josh Billings, I have no idea who he is, said, one of the greatest victories you can gain over someone is to beat him at politeness. That's true. I think that's good. Also, always remember that in America nowadays, there are over 100 million handguns. and just about as many fools who are ready to use them. At the very least, there is no strategic disadvantage for you to be polite. Whoa. Do what you can to stay on task so that the discussion may proceed rationally. The more you practice within this style of debate with your chosen partners, the more you will be able to adapt the style to real-world settings. Okay, so it will be really interesting, as I don't know that we're ready yet to do that, but as we learn more about the debate format, then when things happen, around that spatula, to try and have a debate about it and really keep the debate structure. Don't let it devolve into an argument, but keep the debate structure and do it for fun and see what comes of it. So now, it's chapter 17, the clap. No, it's this one that goes down. Or ta. In case you don't know who Lati Rinpoche is, because he's being mentioned, he's the one who wrote Mind in Tibetan Buddhism. But he was a lama from Ganden Shartse, and somebody that was very, very respected in the tradition. And the Haruka Body Mandala teachings that we have, he was the one who gave those. And so I edited them and everything. He passed away some years ago. I don't know if they found his incarnation. I haven't kept track of that. But he was a very kind of very sweet lama, very nice. And he was also the one who Jeffrey invited to Virginia. So he taught in Virginia for quite a long time in the early years. Lati Rinpoche reported that in ancient India, the debaters would sit across from each other and the challenger would punctuate questions and arguments to the defender by snapping their fingers. Hey you! Hey you! Actually, I can't snap my fingers very well. They're not snapping so well. Then, when the tradition of debate came to Tibet, the Tibetans created the more active and dramatic style of moving around and clapping, because Tibet is so much colder than India. So it does keep you warm, but like I said, I think it's a large part because it's these young men who have so much energy and no footballs. And they need somewhere to do it. Of course, in our modern area of the predominant scientific physicalistic view, we tend to believe that there must be a physical reason for these movements, and that may be so. It could be that they really are just trying to stay warm. But that does not seem to explain the facts very well. First of all, debaters in the exile community in India, where it's plenty warm, still move around and clap. Also, even back in snowy Tibet, the defenders sat on the ground with little activity, except they had their big coats around them. And when you're on the spot and somebody's in your face going, I think you have enough metabolism to keep you warm. Okay. The defenders sat on the ground with very little activity, so that would not warm them at all. Some might believe that there are physiological effects of the movement, especially the clapping, and that the movements were designed to bring these about. For example, they may say that it assists the debater in developing new neural connections as they learn. Or perhaps that the clapping assists the debater in coordinating left brain and right brain for a better whole brain activity. It is possible that these effects are real. In any case, the Tibetan debaters think of the stylistic trappings and movements in debate as potent symbols that support their spiritual practice, their learning, and their efforts on behalf of the welfare of all suffering beings. So we're going to have the explanation of the symbolism of everything. The challenger is standing and the defender is sitting. Oh, by the way, what was it? Were you the one who sent me? There's a video of some of the Inji monks down at Sarah debating in English. Was it you who sent that to me? Yeah? Anybody remember? Because somebody sent it to me, and I remember, maybe it's Venerable Sangha Kadro. We should ask her, because it's really interesting. You could see them debating in English and, doing the, huh?
Yeah, I think it was Venerable Sangha.
Okay, somebody see if you can find the URL, because it's quite interesting to watch. Challenger is standing and the defender is sitting. At the beginning of a session of debate, when someone is in the role of challenger for the first time in that session, and before making any statement, he or she claps the hands together lightly and holds them apart just a little bit, palm to palm. With this movement, the challenger audibly recites "D" in a high-pitched voice. This is the seed syllable of Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom. The challenger's attitude is that a debater must have a good motivation, the best of which is to conceive the special motivation of the great vehicle, the Mahayana, the thought to establish all sentient beings in liberation. But to fulfill this wish is not easy. You must have great knowledge and wisdom, and for this you recite D, asking Manjushri to pour down a torrent of wisdom upon you. The seed syllable D has a very special effect upon Manjushri. I think it has a very special effect upon us. Yeah. Did you notice today, chanting Omar Pasanadi before we had class, that it was quite different than, yeah, much more active, wasn't it? The full statement the challenger begins with is not just the seed syllable of Manjushri, but Omar Pasanadi. So the D comes out really loud. The subject in just the way Manjushri debated. Oh, okay, that's what they say. Yeah, D, the subject in just the way Manjushri debated. The challenger recites the first 6 syllables of the 7-syllable mantra of Manjushri under the breath, and all you can hear is the D, Jitar Chuchen, with the D spoken louder in a high tone and drawn out. According to Demolocho Rinpoche, the meaning of this statement is, just as Manjushri stated subjects in order to overcome the wrong views and doubts of opponents, so I, with a good mind, will do it. Other scholars say that the syllables jitar, literally what like, in the phrase the subject what like, in other words, jitar chudchen, refers to the mode of being or ultimate nature of phenomena, indicating that the subject to debate is the mode of being of phenomena. This is a compelling interpretation because realization of the mode of being of phenomena is the liberating wisdom. Okay. And then I don't have the book, but there's the picture of the monks debating there. Okay. So this picture is what I have here. Okay, you have that one? Okay, so you see the monk in the foreground, how he's bent over, and he's talking he's the challenger, so one hand's behind his back. And you see how he's bent over and the other guy's sitting there and, he's going like this right in front of the other guy's face. Yeah. Saying, what are you talking about? Say this, answer my question. Okay. So when they're bent over like that, that's what they're doing. Okay. And you see also how they're sitting like right there in a line. And that's what it is, like I was saying the other day. Everybody's there. Everybody's talking in loud voices. It's not nice, delicate, sweet voices. They are screaming. And you have to be able to differentiate what's being said in your debate from what all the people around you are screaming. So you have to be able to really pay attention, and you can't space out. Okay, the attitude is as if the challenger is respectfully approaching the defender with a question in hopes of getting a good answer. The challenger asks the defender about passages in texts, the meanings of a quotation, definitions, divisions, how two things compare, information proving the claims, subjects that exemplify the qualities being discussed, and reasons proving the claims. Every bit of this is fodder for further debate. So, you can say one thing and then, it can go in many, many different directions from there. Okay. So then there's the other, now I have this picture, Okay. So that's like this picture. Okay. So, the right hand's back and, the left hand's forward and the left foot is forward and they're going to say something and go, okay? And so, they stamp with the left foot and it said, it's going to explain that that's closing the door to the lower realms, for the other person. And then when you hit, I always want to do that, but it's actually this hand. And after you hit, this hand gets turned over, and that's stopping all rebirth. And you have your mala, and somehow you have your mala when after you hit, and you pull back your mala. You're pulling them out of cyclic existence. Come on, you. Okay. So you can see how active it is. I mean, somebody's foot is lifted up and they're, okay. So in that picture too, in the background, you can see one of the monks with the mala around his left hand. Yeah. But the nuns are so much more demure when they debate. It's like, at least when I've seen them debate, they're not. Although at one debate I saw, they were getting into it. A few of them ganged up on one person, and Okay. Oh, here's another one. This one's really good. You can see. Okay, she's, not just lifting her left leg up, but she's twisting it around, and she's going to go for it. Okay, should I pass these around? I'll leave them up here. Whoever brought them, thank you, and you can take a look. I think it was quite something to get the nuns to speak up, because they aren't used to speaking up and stating what they believe. They were always, like this in the background. So I think that, just the debate form has been quite something for them to get them used to that. Okay. So then simultaneous clap and stomp. Sounds like a dance step. The challenger brings together the hands to clap at the same moment as he stomps his left foot. Okay. why didn't you get any peanut butter? Oh, and I'm stomping my left foot and clapping my hands and looking at, why did you buy peanut butter? Okay. Note that the left hand is turned palm up and the right hand is turned palm down. That's how you usually clap. This one is up and one's down. The challenger times the clap so that it coincides with the end of the question or argument to the defender. As explained by Lati Rinpoche, the left side is associated with wisdom, which alone is able to overcome the process of being powerlessly reborn again and again in cyclic existence. For the wisdom cognizing selflessness is the actual antidote to cyclic existence. The right side is associated with method, which for the great vehicle, or Mahayana, is the altruistic intention, the bodhichitta, to become enlightened, called the mind of enlightenment. Motivated by great love and compassion for all sentient beings. The clap is a practice of the union of wisdom and method. Tantric practitioners of the great vehicle cultivate these in a single practice, for they believe that it is only in dependence on the union of method and wisdom that a person is able to achieve the final freedom of a Buddha. The union of method and wisdom, represented by pressing together the palms, has to do with subtle wind channels of wisdom in the wrists, which meet when the debater claps the hands together. What's the footnote? Who said that? Lati Rinpoche oral commentary. The subtle wind channels of wisdom in the wrists. Stomping the left foot down is interpreted as slamming shut the door to rebirth in the lower migrations as a hell being, hungry ghost, or animal, as if there were a door on the floor, although through which we could all fall. Okay. Then I have the simultaneous clap and stamp with the little monks, So you can see there he's getting ready. He's lifting up his hand. He has his hands up much higher, sometimes lower. I always want to go like that. It's like this. Okay. You can look. His defender is like, how long? When does this end? Yeah, the little monks is cute to watch them debate. Yeah. Okay, then there's you see the next picture, this one, yeah, where he's drawing back, and there you can see the mala. He has his mala, and the left hand that was up is now down. Okay, drawing back from the clap. After clapping and stomping simultaneously, the challenger then immediately draws back the right hand and at the same time holds out the left hand as if in a gesture of stopping. Holding out the left hand of wisdom after clapping symbolizes holding shut the door. Is that what it says in yours? Okay. Holding shut the door to all rebirth in any form, not just rebirth in the lower migrations. At the same time, the challenger uses the right hand of method to raise up the prayer beads around the left arm. The bead represents all suffering beings, and the gesture symbolizes raising them all out of helpless rebirth, a gesture born of love and compassion that is the essence of the Mahayana practice. There are 108 prayer beads, an auspicious number in Indian-based religion, which are counted as 100 for recitation of mantra. On the debating courtyard, so when you do 100, your one mala through, you don't count 108, you count 100. Although some people cheat. Oh, you have to spend another session recalculating everything now. Don't ask me why 108 is auspicious. I've asked and don't know. On the debating courtyard, the debaters may use only sutra-style prayer beads without counters, as opposed to tantra-style beads with counters, which are often little bells and vajras. Okay, then you see the other little monks. He's going, sa. You know, you can see him with both palms up. Ah, a white horse is not white. Sa! You idiot, don't you know that a white horse is a horse? A white horse isn't white. Okay, then finished. Yeah, that's the sa. The challenger shouts, Oma tsa. I've never heard the O-ah, I just hear the sa. And claps one hand into the other with both palms up. At this point, the challenger shouts, finished, or tsar. According to Lhasa Rinpoche, what is finished is the defender's earlier claims or the defender's earlier misconception. When the defender contradicts the original assertion he or she made at the beginning of the debate, the challenger shouts, Oa tsa, 3 times and claps 3 times, palms up. Tsa, tsa, tsa. Some scholars say that what the challenger shouts at this point is amazing. So it's pronounced the same way, tsa, yeah, but it has the silent M in front of it, so it's spelled differently and it's a different word. That a person would first say one thing and then later contradict his or her own assertion is amazing. Really? We're building the wall. Give me money for the wall. It's contradictory, isn't it? Yeah. I need money to build the wall. We're building the wall as I speak. Okay. Yeah, so tsa. Okay. One piece of evidence for the understanding of the syllable is finished is that often at this point the debaters will laugh. Your basic thesis is finished. Sawe damcha tsa. Okay. And there's Manjushri sitting there so peacefully, isn't it? You know, it's amazing. You see Manjushri holding the sword. Do you feel a sense of danger from Manjushri's sword? You know, usually swords I would just feel really creepy around. Manjushri's, you know, I mean, he's so just smooth and peaceful. I see him holding a sword and, you know, it doesn't seem threatening at all. Does it seem threatening to you? You know, his...
The Queen UK bestowed sir.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Manjushri is regarded as the physical manifestation of the wisdom of all the Buddhas. Thus, he is the special deity of debate. The large representation of Manjushri in the center is his outer form. To his lower right on our left is the inner form of Manjushri, shown in union with his consort Sarasvati, and to his lower left on our right is the secret form of Manjushri, also shown in union with his consort Sarasvati. Okay. The image was painted by Venerable Sangye Eshe, a famous Thanga painter who lives in Dharamsala. Yeah, he's quite well known. Okay. So let's continue on. Chapter 18, Manjushri. Yeah. So I'm hoping you're still doing, you know, some of the debate review in the between, because the last few chapters, there's not much to discuss about, you know, but keep up your thing of, 3-point and 4-point and that kind of stuff, so you don't forget it. And make some syllogisms. Manjushri is regarded as the physical manifestation of the wisdom of all the Buddhas. As such, he is a protector and a fully realized Buddha, although he is often included as a celestial bodhisattva. This is suitable because a Buddha is a bodhisattva superior, having completed the path of a bodhisattva. A Buddha is an Arya bodhisattva. No, the Buddha is an Arya Buddha. He's not an Arya bodhisattva. Anyway, as the manifestation of the omniscient mind of the Buddhas, of course it is Manjushri who is the special deity of debate, all logic and epistemology studies, and more broadly, all topics of philosophy. In fact, all Buddhist texts, sutras as well as commentaries, on topics included in the basket of knowledge, or Abhidharma, begin by paying homage to Manjushri. In the image at the beginning of this chapter, Manjushri is shown in the form of a 16-year-old boy, the age that is regarded as the height of a person's brightness, luminosity, and vigor. Okay, he is adorned with jewelry, which represents the paramitas, and sits with his legs crossed in the style of Vajra posture, often called the lotus posture, and he is tilted somewhat to his left. Actually, it's the Vajra posture, and many people call it the lotus, and I don't understand why. It's actually called the Vajra posture. The lotus is different. His left hand is in the gesture or the mudra of teaching. Okay, so that's like this. And he holds the stem of a lotus with the flower rising on his left side. Okay, so remember, this whole side is wisdom. The left is the wisdom. Yeah. Resting on top of the lotus is a scripture of the perfection of wisdom, or Prajnaparamita. The text is in the shape of a long rectangular solid. That's because that's how they made texts in Old Tibet. I wonder how they did it in India, what shape the books were. V-shaped, yeah. Huh, yeah. Unlike an ordinary modern book, it is in the style of ancient Indian or Tibetan texts, which is a stack of unbounded pages wrapped together, which if you drop them, good luck. That Manjushri holds the text of the perfection of wisdom indicates that he sees all things just as they are with his pure and clear intelligence. The perfection of wisdom sutras express the superior of all the Buddha's teachings and are the main of the 84,000 masses of doctrine. Manjushri holds the scripture on his left side, the side associated with wisdom, indicating that his wisdom is in accordance with the Buddha's highest wisdom of the most profound emptiness. On his right, Manjushri holds a flaming sword above his head, okay, as if he's prepared to swing it. Yeah, but he's holding it there, and you never get a sense of his muscles being tight and tired from holding it, and you never get a sense of him being aggressive. It's like he's just holding it. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so the flames are burning up all the wrong conceptions, and it's two-sided, so the blade is two-sided, so that it represents dispelling misconceptions about ultimate truths and conventional truths. This sword clears away the darkness of ignorance and cuts every sprout of suffering. Manjushri holds the sword in his right hand, the side associated with method, indicating his method, which in Sanskrit is upaya. And upaya is also skillful means, I think. Yeah. As a Buddha, that method includes the motivation of the great vehicle, the wish to establish all sentient beings in a state free of suffering. The sword is in flames, for it illuminates, and it also burns out misconceptions. Just as the light of a flame is able to clear away darkness in a room, so the light of wisdom is able to clear away the darkness of ignorance, and thereby free beings from suffering. Also, this flaming sword cuts every sprout of suffering, for wisdom is the actual antidote to ignorance, the root cause of all suffering. Wisdom destroys the root cause of suffering, making it impossible for suffering to rise again. In another way of understanding the flaming sword, the flames around it indicate that it is unobstructed with regard to any phenomena and is able to cut through false appearances. Behind Manjushri's head, there's a halo, and there's a larger one behind his body. These indicate his luminosity and potency. He sits on a moon disk, another symbol of compassion. It is as if the moon were made flat and used as a cushion. The moon disk is on top of a sun disk. That is incorrect. In Manjushri, he just sits on a lotus and moon. There's no sun. But anyway, the sun disk is a symbol of wisdom. But he's not sitting on it. You can see that there are two disks. Not in the sadhanas that I look at. There's only the moon disk. The sun, he says, the sun and moons. The moon rests on a lotus, which is a symbol of the fundamental purity of the mind. For if the mind were not pure in its nature, it would be impossible to purify the stains of ignorance and become liberated. Manjushri and the entire seat rest on a plateau in the mountains. On the upper left, over the left shoulder of Manjushri, is the sun, and on the upper right, over the left shoulder of Manjushri, is the sun, and on the upper left, over his right shoulder, is the moon. At the bottom of the image, in the foreground, are offerings, such as would be offered to a peaceful deity. In addition to the many round figures, which are bags of jewels, there are pleasant offerings for the five senses. In the middle is a mirror for the eyes. Below the mirror are two symbols as an offering to the ears. On the bottom right is a conch shell of incense for the nose. On the bottom left, among the collections of bag of jewels, is fruit to please the tongue. And laced between the two symbols, there is a flowing silk scarf to please the sense of touch. So if we look here,
There's a conch
oh,
shell,
here.
a
Oh,
mirror,
okay.
and some fruit.
Yeah, there's the mirror, the conch shell, the scarf, the instrument, and there's the fruit. Right here, these little things. Raspberries. Okay. Raspberries and a funny kind of mirror. And the conch shell holds the incense. Okay, and then the scarf. So you have all the pleasing objects of the senses. Manjushri, Jampel, is also called Manjugosha or Jamyang, and even Manjushri Gosha, Jampel Yang. Okay, so those are all names for Manjushri. He is called Manju. Manjushri was one of our kitties, one of our founding kitties. Manjushri and Achala. Okay, and we called him Manju. Yeah, he is called Manju, gentle, agreeable, soft. Okay, so that's the Jam part. Because he is free from the harshness of afflictive and non-afflictive obstructions. He is called Gosha, speech, sound, or melody. And that's the young Jampel, Jamyang. I think the yang is melody. Because he is the Lord of speech, and his speech possesses the 6 qualities of vocalization. He is called Shri, glorious, because he has the glorious of The glory of the complexion of the two collections, merit and wisdom. Okay, so then man is soft. Manju is soft. So that's the jam. Oop, my thing went backwards. Gosha, which would be Pel, but you would think that he would have described the terms in the order they came in the name. Jampel Yang. Well, it's the Tibetan that's out of order, isn't it? It should be Jam Yang Pel. Yeah, Manju, Shri, Gosha. Okay, so the Shri is glorious, the Gosha is speech or melody. Okay, and the Manju is gentle. Okay. Although many of us might like to think that it is not so, every variety of Buddhism is devotional, especially Tantric Buddhism. It is a mistake to label Tibetan Buddhism as only Vajrayana Buddhism or Tantric Buddhism, but the perspective of Tantra is always in the background of things in Tibet. That's for sure. Thus, Manjushri is always greeted with praise and offerings. The attitude is that we need all the help we can get. In order to penetrate the subtle meaning of the Buddhist teachings, it is necessary to have the wisdom discriminating phenomena. And Manjushri, along with his consort Sarasvati, Yangchenma, are the two deities that bestow wisdom to others. Yeah, so I know somebody named Yangchen, so that's where her name came from Sarasvati. Manjushri is a protector, or Gompo, a Buddha who protects sentient beings from suffering and establishes them in happiness. The protector Manjushri, who has great love and compassion for sentient beings suffering in cyclic existence, dispels the darkness of ignorance in their minds through the rays of light of his wisdom, as sunlight dispels darkness. Manjushri will clear away the darkness of the mind of all those who pray to him. There's one homage to Manjushri that's often recited before debate and before teachings, and he's picking out a lot of the lines from that. It's in our Pearl of Wisdom 1 book. Yeah, so he's picking out those lines and describing what they mean. When Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelugpa order of Tibetan Buddhism, heard that Manjushri is able to bestow wisdom upon trainees, he resolved not to turn away from him. And he had discussions with Manjushri. He did his 911 to Manjushri. When a trainee pleases him, Manjushri can, with a mere glance, bestow the wisdom discriminating the truth in the sense of quickly increasing realization, like lighting a flame. Tsongkhapa says that having heard such a marvelous account, he has relied on Manjushri as his special deity over a long time and will not forsake him in the future. The story goes that Tsongkhapa made great effort and actually achieved a meeting with the protector, Manjushri. There was a painting of Manjushri on the wall of Tsongkhapa's Gawadong retreat, and upon improvement of his meditation, a great light emitted from Manjushri's heart. That was the first time Tsongkhapa saw Manjushri, and thereafter, at his wish, he met Manjushri, who taught him the difficult points of the stages of the path. The belief is that Manjushri is able to bestow wisdom on disciples in the way that a spark is able to ignite a fire. In a self-powered tradition such as Buddhism, and especially within the context of the debate tradition, when trainees work so hard to develop their own realizations, what could it mean that Manjushri bestows wisdom? There are stories in Buddhism of disciples receiving transmission of wisdom, but that is not what is indicated here. Rather, the comments given here referred to lighting a flame or a spark that ignites a fire. The imagery suggests that a person might be able to get a start on wisdom from Manjushri, but ultimately the flame must burn in your own mind, or that would require effort, and that would require effort to sustain and further the flame. So it's not just by praying to Manjushri and making offerings to Manjushri that you get wisdom. You have to develop your own wisdom.
This brings a question I've been trying to sit with in the practice that goes back to what kind of cognizer is apprehending what I'm meditating on. I'm trying to do that meditation. So I've been playing with, like, when we have the appearance of Vajrasattva, it's a conceptual appearance. Surely in a direct yogic perceiver would apprehend a deity. But then I think about Jai Rinpoche or the story of a Sangha, and I think, were they having an actual direct sense perceptions of the deity? And how do those three things relate?
Yeah, they were having actual, it was, I think, a mental direct perceiver of the deity, you know. Although I don't know. I mean, a Sangha, the dog was on his shoulders, and he, looked back, and so maybe his was with the visual consciousness. Yeah. So maybe.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if there's like a progression, or I don't know.
Oh, it's definitely, because you start with a conceptual appearance. And remember, with a conceptual appearance, the appearing object is the conceptual appearance. The apprehended object is still Manjushri. Okay, so you're apprehending Manjushri, but you're apprehending him through the veil of a conceptual appearance. As that veil is removed, then it becomes a direct perceiver. Yeah. So I would think in meditation, that's more often a mental direct perceiver. Although, in the story with the Sangha, it sounds like he opened his eyes and saw Maitreya there. So,
Or when Tara spoke
to Atisha, yeah. Yeah, although, I don't know, it doesn't say, he was walking around the stupa. Did Tara just kind of walk up and say, go to Tibet? Or was he sitting and meditating, and then he had a vision of Tara? Tara appeared to him. The Tara statue. There's one statue that people think is Tara, but it's Chenrezi. Yeah, there's a Chenrezi that's sitting in the same position as Tara. So I don't know, maybe there's another Tara statue there. There must be, because,
That little temple to the left as you go to the main temple?
As you face where the statue is.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like a little room or a temple up there on the left, and it's
Okay.
painted green. I mean, it's really...
Okay, so that must be it, because the one I'm thinking of is around the back of the stupa. Okay.
We're with the Sakyas on pilgrimage. Dhammakusho took us to that one on not the little room, but the one on the side.
Near the Bodhi tree.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly where we were.
It was
outside, and it was
a panel on the side of the stupa.
And what you did is each person individually stood about 12 feet away from it or something, closed their eyes,
and
walk towards it. And then you see if you go, how close you end up.
Yeah.
And that's how close you are.
That's actually Chenrezi, I heard.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
We're talking about the same statue.
Yeah.
She had said that, I thought she had said, I'm not sure if I made this up, because I might have made that part up, about thinking that was the statue that talked to Atisha. I might have made up that part in my mind.
No, but that would be, in any case, the Tara one that's on the other side of the temple.
Yeah.
I also, one person was pointing me that Tara statue that's Venerable Tara.
Yeah, but that's Chenrezi. It's not Tara. People think it's Tara, but anyway, okay. Tara talked to Atisha. Doesn't matter which one who talked to Atisha. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Then we will next time talk about Manjushri's mantra and hopefully get into some more debating stuff soon. You know, there's still a few more chapters of descriptive material.